Product review time. It's the IcyBreeze V2 Pro. We're going to get into it. I'm going to show you, is this a worthwhile piece of kit for overlanding, for camping, at the beach? Could this be a worthwhile investment? I bought this with my own money. It came out to $415. I got the V2 Pro, I got the wall adapter, and I also got 3 of the icy blocks. The icy blocks are just giant, like, freezer blocks that you can use instead of using bagged ice. And the thinking behind that was, you know, save money on having to buy bagged ice, and it's something that can just be reused over and over, and that could probably be more convenient because, you know, getting ice and stuff out when you're camping isn't really an option, but maybe a solid big block of ice will probably not melt as fast. So that was the thinking behind that. So that's what we got inside of here is 3 icy blocks that are frozen overnight and water. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first things first, let's just turn it on and I'll let it run for a few minutes so it can get down to its like coldest temperature, and then we'll get some temperature measurements for you. Okay, it's been about 10 minutes since I turned this on, and as you can see, the room is at 80 degrees with 23% humidity, hardly any humidity in here at all. And IcyBreeze, you know, in all their marketing, they talk about how this is a true air conditioner. This is not a swamp cooler. It's gonna get way colder than any homemade swamp cooler that you could build is. They got a video on Instagram of them using this in a 90-degree warehouse and it putting out like 28, 29, 30 degree icy cold air.
Keep in mind here in Sweetwater, Texas, it's about 90 degrees. I got a little temp gauge out here. Holy cow. 31, 30. Oh my goodness. That air is freezing cold coming out of there, y'all.
Let's test that out. We got the unit on low right now. We're gonna shoot it right inside the tube. 61, 62. There it is, you guys. That has been the name of the game. 60. That's as good as I've ever seen it. 59. I've tried out all kinds of things. That is the coldest I can get it. Nowhere near their marketing of 30 degrees or anything like that. It's abysmal. It does absolutely almost nothing. Like if you took this pipe and ran it into your shirt, it would help. But the pipe's not long enough to do that. It goes to like about here. You'd have to buy their extension pipe to run it into your shirt. And also, I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's pretty loud. Like, let me dig into this some more. But now that you've seen that this thing does not work, it does not put out icy air. I don't think anyone considers 60-degree air icy. Let's talk about some other things surrounding this product. Right off the bat, it's really hard. Like this panel, I'm not a fan of. Look how hard it is to tell what you're on. Like this little knob doesn't have any color on it. Like you can't really look down at a quick glance and tell what your fan speed is, but that's totally minor. The bigger issue that I want to point out is, I don't, you know, in all their ads, they've got someone like sitting next to this having a conversation. That's going to be difficult because this thing is loud. Like I'm going to turn it on low and we'll see if this video picks this up here. So I went ahead and measured this, and that's 65 decibels on low, okay? Crank it up to medium here. Now we're at 69 decibels. Let's go to high. This is like a jet engine taking off right here. It's at 70, 71, 72 decibels was the highest reading that I got. You are not having a conversation with someone sitting next to this thing. Like, you're not putting this by the lake while you're fishing without pissing off everybody around you. Like, I guarantee in all their marketing ads, the people that are having conversations next to this thing is not turned on when that's happening. It is really loud. If you're trying to, like, I don't know, do anything, you're trying to get any kind of work done or enjoy some peace and quiet, you don't want to be anywhere near this thing. Again, here's those decibel readings that I took at the various fan speeds. Okay, so this is the inside, and these are the icy blocks, and I've got 3 of them. And so this is supposed to take the place of ice, like bagged ice. And in their marketing, they do not say bagged ice is better. They just say you could use bagged ice or you can use the icy blocks. It doesn't come across as like a trade-off. So I went with the icy blocks. I've got 3 of them in here. And the other thing that they don't tell you in any of their marketing is about water. They're always like, you fill it with ice, and yeah, you know, that's where you get your energy from, and everything uses energy, but they don't mention water. So you got to keep that in mind, guys. Even if you're using bagged ice, there's a line down there. It's maybe a few quarts that you have to have of water. So add that to your list of things that you're gonna have to have available to bring with you to make this thing work. So I had the minimum amount of water in there, which is what you need to be able to get the pickup for the pump to, you know, get the cold water up to the heat exchanger. And I wasn't getting as good of performance. I was getting like 64, 65. I emailed IcyBreeze and they suggested, they said that you actually need to have water over the tops of the icy block, which is not in here. It doesn't say that at all. But they said fill it up with water higher than the icy blocks. I'm like, okay, whatever. If it's gonna get it down to 30-something degrees, I'm happy to do that. So I filled it up with a bunch of water. As you can see, you can't get water high. I mean, it's impossible to get water higher than the icy blocks because they float. So you can't really do what they're saying to do unless you pack an additional thing, maybe like a weight from like a dumbbell or something, and then you help hold them down. But they're gonna, you know, without that, they're gonna float. And so I've got this thing with a bunch of water now, several gallons, probably about 2 gallons in here of water. So add that to your list of things that you're gonna have to try and bring with you on a camping trip for your IcyBreeze. And it didn't really make much of a difference. The other thing I gotta mention, I got 3 of these, and one of them, this one right here, was actually not sealed on that seam. So it leaks out. Which, given that you need all this water in there, is not a big deal, but like when you're filling it up and figuring out how you're gonna freeze it in your freezer, you can't put it on its side because it leaks out. Now they were good about that. They said they'd send me a replacement, no questions asked there. But the bigger thing with the icy blocks is they don't seem to have really been engineered specifically for this product. I mean, the shape of them doesn't match up. Like this cutout doesn't really match up with anything. They say in the instructions the cap is supposed to face the drain plug, so they are in the right way. They move around from side to side. Like, I don't know, if I was, I mean, I am a product designer by trade, and if I was designing these blocks, they would fit in like a certain way so that they can't move, so they can't float. They're just random ice blocks. Like, I don't think there's anything that they did to particularly engineer them for this. Maybe they got them in bulk from some company that already had this design or something. They don't really fit in here great. They slide around, and you got to kind of keep them on this side of the cooler. You don't want them to fall that way because the heat exchanger, it comes down and sits in here. So you have to have the icy blocks out of the way. The other really annoying thing about their suggestion of filling this thing up all the way so the icy blocks are totally covered is that if you use the handle and you pick this thing up to transport it, because it's really heavy now, obviously, whoops, we just spilled a ton of water out the side because this seam, it's not watertight at all. There's no, it's not like a Yeti or an Arctic or like a high quality cooler where there's like rubber straps that you can like lock this thing down and create a really good seal on the lid. It doesn't have anything like that. So they want you to fill it up completely with water, and then it's gonna weigh a ton, and if you try to move it, the water is gonna spill out really easily because this lid doesn't cinch down tight at all. The other thing that caught my eye when I bought this is you can see sales tax $34.90. And that caught my eye. It's not a big deal, it's only 35 bucks, but it didn't really make sense because IcyBreeze is based in Texas and I'm in Arizona. So why would an online purchase going to a different state have sales tax on it? So I emailed them about it and they were just like, yeah, it's right. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I'm no accountant or CPA, but even if we go to comptroller.texas.gov and you go to selling online, sales to customers in Texas, you must collect sales tax. But then if you go to sales to customers outside of Texas, Texas sellers do not need to collect Texas sales tax on items shipped and delivered to out-of-state locations. So I sent this to them and they're just like, yeah, it's correct. We promise it's correct. But I mean, again, I'm no CPA, I'm no IRS agent, but I've never heard of something like this before. If you don't have a nexus in the state that you're shipping to, why would you be collecting sales tax in that state? Maybe they're a part of like a bigger company like Amazon or something that does have a physical location in Arizona. I don't know, but it's something to point out because it immediately was like, wait, what's going on here? It was the first negative in a long string of negatives. So from the get-go, I was in touch with IcyBreeze customer support, and they do get back to you quickly, and so that's good. And I was, hopeful that we could find a resolution to make this thing work. I was just thinking, there's a problem with my specific unit. So I emailed them, and this is a few emails in. This is on July 6, 2024, and they say the V2 Pro can cool up to 35 degrees cooler than the ambient temperature. And this is, by the way, when they were starting to ask me like how much water is inside, and then the next email they're like, you need to fill it up even more, even though again, nothing like that is in the instruction manual. And I'm like, wait, whoa, what's this? 35 degrees cooler than the ambient air temperature? You just put out a marketing video where it's kicking out 30-degree air in 90-degree warehouse. But now we're saying it can only do 35 degrees? Okay, even still, it's not doing 35 degrees. It's only doing like 20, best case. But that was my first like, whoa, what's going on with this? This is the first anyone's ever mentioned 35 degrees, like a difference of ambient temperature. So then we keep going back and forth and I'm explaining things to them. And basically, they tell me a few days later, the unit is working completely fine. It's not meant to cool down a space. Well, I don't know why they're saying that. Like I never told them I'm trying to cool down a space. Like I'm just measuring the temperature in the tube. And it's meant to cool down where the tube is pointing directly. So again, they mean for you to put this tube directly on your body. Don't think of it as like you're gonna cool down a space. You have to have this air blowing directly on you if it's gonna do anything. And again, the hose is kind of too short to do that. You're gonna have to buy the extension. And again, if you're gonna be sitting right next to this thing, it's gonna be really loud. But they say the temperature reduction does sound correct. How? We're only getting 20. Like, even if we do the abysmal 35 degree difference from ambient, we're still nowhere near that. And then they're like, oh, have you tried adding in some 10-pound, like a bag of ice? Well, again, nothing in their advertising is saying that the icy blocks are worse than a bag of ice. Why would you want to use both? That's the entire point of the icy blocks. So I just basically told them that I had to return it. And, they keep saying about how it's a true air conditioner and it's not a swamp cooler. Guys, it's a swamp cooler. And it's not even as good as a lot of swamp coolers. The swamp cooler that I have is colder than this thing. So I had to ask to do a return 3 times before they finally sent me the return label. So that V2 Pro is going back. I can't say anything good about it, you guys. Nothing from the performance, the marketing, like absolutely nothing good about this. I don't see any reason why you would want to lug this thing around to get 20-degree air cooler than what's outside. And again, we're doing this test under the best of circumstances. It's inside. It's not like it's sitting in direct sunlight where it's 90+ degrees outside. The other thing is, after going back and forth with them and eventually them saying that it's working like it's supposed to, like 60 degrees in an 80-degree room, is worth it and that it's perfect, I'm just like, all right, well, I'm gonna have to take you up on that 30-day return policy. And I had to ask them 3 times for like that I want to return it. Every time they just kept ignoring that part of my email. So finally, like, it took like an all caps email. I want to return this. And then finally they sent the return shipping label. So I don't have anything good to say about this. I'm sorry. I had a lot of hope. I really wanted this to work out. I wanted this to be a true air conditioner, but it's not. It's just kind of a really expensive swamp cooler. Now, don't get me wrong, I've seen videos out there from regular people like you and me that have bought this and they use a temperature gun and they're getting like 20-degree air coming out of this thing. That's all well and good. But the point of this video is that this one doesn't, and IcyBreeze says that 60 degrees is totally normal and that's just the way that it is. So, you know, maybe someone got lucky, but at the end of the day, how do you know you're not gonna get one that's like this? I mean, there's just nothing redeeming about it. It's expensive, it's super loud, it doesn't cool very well at all. You have to have water and ice. They want you to apparently use their ice blocks, but then also add cubed ice. The customer service took forever to help out. There's the sales tax issue. There's a lot of, I'm getting a lot of hints of deception from this company. I don't know how much money they must have had to throw at Deion Sanders for him to say anything good about this. But you guys, that's a review. I wish it turned out differently, but this thing is going back to IcyBreeze today.